everybody, JC here from Toy News International, and today I'm trying something a little bit different. Instead of just doing a standard toy review like I often do, I thought I would try this new segment which I'm calling Toy Talk. And this is where I basically just kind of show off some figures and just give my thoughts on it. This isn't a formal review per se. Now, today I'm going to be taking a look at the new DC Essentials Superman figure from DC Collectibles, as well as the Ultimate NECA figure Pennywise from the 1990 It movie. So two totally different type of figures I'm going to be looking at today. We got Superman versus Pennywise here. I wonder who would win in a fight if these two took each other on. Probably you would initially say Superman, which probably would win, but I don't know. You know, Superman is kind of vulnerable to magics and things like that, so maybe Pennywise could give Superman a good fight. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm basically going to be just sharing thoughts. You know, I've been handling these figures and stuff, and so just kind of tell you what I like about the figures and what I don't like about the figures. Again, this isn't a formal review. Now, I will have formal reviews, written reviews for both of these figures up on Toy News International, as well as detailed image galleries. So I will put links to those in the video description if you want to check those out and get more of an actual review for both of these figures. But again, here today, I'm really just going to be showing them off a little bit and just giving my thoughts, general thoughts on the figures. So we'll start off with the Superman figure. We'll set Pennywise off to the side here for a moment, and we'll start with Superman here. Okay, now for the figure, there are definitely some things I really like about this figure, and then there are a couple things that I don't like quite as much, and I'm going to go over all those things. So the first thing, the thing I like the most about this figure, I think, is the head sculpt here. I think they've done an outstanding job with this head sculpt. I think it's one of the best looking Superman comic book based head sculpts that I've seen, at least in a really long time. He's got the all black hair, he's got the iconic curl there, he's got the black eyebrows, and the paint applications on the head sculpt with the eyes and everything look really good. So I just think they've done a really good job with the head sculpt on this one for Superman. Now for paint applications on the rest of the figure, pretty solid overall. He's got the blue for the tights. This does have the return of the red tights. This is based on the outfit that he started wearing, I believe, in Action Comics issue 1000, so which heralded the return of the red tights. He's got the yellow belt. Now, one area where a little bit of an error, I would say, is they did not paint the loops on the belt red in the comic with this new outfit. I believe the loops are supposed to be red, so they did leave that unpainted. Basically the loops are the same color as the belt. And then also one other area where I have a little bit of a gripe with the paint is here on the feet. So you've got, with these figures, you've got these ankle joints that kind of are, you know, they're basically a different part of the bottom foot and the upper foot. And with this particular figure, this ankle joint kind of stands out a bit when you get him in the light and stuff, because the boots are done with a glossy red paint, but this joint between the foot and the upper portion of the boot is more of a flat red color, so almost looks like he's wearing socks or something. So definitely feel like that kind of stands out a little bit on the figure. But otherwise, I think it's solid. The symbol is painted on his chest there. It's not sculpted, but again, it's pretty solid looking. He's got this cape, which I think hangs well on the figure. I think it's a good length. It's made with that rubber vinyl type material. With the costume, there's no symbol on the cape with this one. It's just solid red on both sides. And again, I think that looks pretty good. He's got, for the right arm, he's got a closed fist, and then for the left arm, he's got this kind of open hand, which actually works well when you're putting him in flight poses. You can kind of put it up by his cape, so it looks like he's kind of holding his cape up a little bit. Another thing I really like about this figure is with the articulation, with the head sculpt. They really did it so he could look up good for flight poses. So, you know, usually with a lot of Superman figures recently, you know, he really can't get his head back very much, and so, you know, it makes it difficult to get him in good flight poses. So that's something I'm definitely glad that they did with this figure, is they gave him a hinge joint on the neck there that really allows you to get the head back pretty good for those flight poses. So that's another thing that I really like. Now, you do get the gappage here, with like you do with all these essential figures, and I know that bothers some of you. review. I've seen a lot of you complain about that. It doesn't bother me that much. I do think maybe it would be better if DC Collectibles went back to the kind of crotch articulation they were using on the recent Icon figures, where you can kind of pull the leg out from the socket. I think that hides that gappage a lot better, and you still get a pretty good, decent range of motion there with the legs and everything. But to me, that's kind of minor. Now, also with the arms, when you get them in the static position, I would say the arms are a little bit long. They come down a little bit far on the leg, but not a big deal. And I think, you know, when you're getting them in flight poses and stuff, the arms work well. So, like I said, in static, when you get them in a static position like this, the arms do maybe look a little bit long, but not anything so bad that it really bothers me that much. Now this figure, it stands right about 7 inches, just a little bit under 7 inches tall. So if you're not familiar with the new Essential figures, they are taller than Icons. They're basically the same kind of scale as the older DC collectible figures, the new 52 ones they did, but they're not in scale with like Marvel Legends and stuff. So I've got a couple figures to give you some size comparisons. So this is the Superman movie figure that DC Collectibles did, and you can see they're about the same height. The movie figure is a little bit taller. And then this is an older new 52. Actually, this is the DC Icons figure, so you can see this one is shorter. This is the 6-inch Icons. And then we've got another one here. This is an older DC collectible figure, 7-inch scale, so these two are closer in height with one another. And then also I've got the, this is an older Mattel 6-inch figure, which again you can see this new one is taller. And then finally I've got the NECA Christopher Reeve Superman figure. And the NECA one is a little bit shorter, but again you can see, you know, these NECA DC figures are more in scale with these new DC collectible ones. And then finally I'll show you, this is a DC Essentials Flash figure that was released in the first wave. And then finally we've got Batman that was also released in the first wave. And these two are about the same height. Now for articulation on this figure, it's pretty good overall. I already talked about the head and how you can get it back. You can get the arm out good, and you've got good rotation there. You've got a bicep swivel, the double jointed elbows. You've got the rotation at the wrist. You've got hinges, so you've got the up and down movement. Now, one area, the joints overall in this figure seem to be pretty tight. I haven't had any real issue with loose joints, but one area where here on the, again with these ankles, they are a little bit rubbery, and so it does kind of wobble a little bit, and so sometimes that makes it harder to get the figure to stand, especially because the cape, you know, kind of makes the figure a little bit top heavy. I mean, he's standing pretty good here, you can see, but I have at times had some issues getting him to stand just because these ankle joints are a little bit rubbery, which allows it to kind of wobble sometimes and then fall over. So just something to note. But you've got the ab crunch joint, so he can crunch forward pretty good, and then he can crunch back pretty good, again, for flight poses, which is nice. He's got the waist swivel. He can do the splits good. Now, he does have a thigh swivel, and he has the double jointed knees, and he has a boot cuff swivel, and then again with the feet you've got the up and down movement, and you've got rotation, and you do have some ankle pivot there, and then there's no peg holes on the bottom of the feet for this one. Okay, so overall, you know, I have some minor complaints, but I think this is a pretty solid figure. Again, I really like this head sculpt. I like the fact that you can get the head back for flight poses. I think the figure looks good in flight poses, which I think is an important thing. It would have been cool if we'd gotten some accessories. I understand, you know, DC Collectibles says they're not giving these figures a lot of accessories because to help keep costs down, these figures cost between $22 and $25. So I kind of understand that reasoning, but still it would be cool, you know, if they gave us something like heat beams like we saw with the Icons Death of Superman figure. If they'd done something like this does not actually fit on the head, so you can kind of put it up there, but it won't stay, unfortunately. But it would have been cool if they'd included something like that. But as it is, like I said, I think this is a pretty solid figure overall, and if you're a Superman fan, I think this will make a nice addition to your Superman figure collection. Okay, now on to the Pennywise figure from NECA Toys. Now, like with Superman, I think this is a really nice figure. However, I do have some issues with this figure. So this is based on the Tim Curry version of Pennywise from the 1990 Stephen King It movie. And I like this version of Pennywise better than the more modern version. Now, interestingly enough, NECA says that they produced this figure knowing they were going to take a loss on it, a financial loss, which I assume means that basically the cost, they're selling it at a cost that basically won't allow, it costs more to make the figure than what they're selling it for. So I got to give credit to NECA for going forward with this. Now, it may have been part of a deal that they negotiated having to do both versions of Pennywise. I don't know, but as it is, they've stated on Twitter that they're actually taking a financial loss on this figure. And they've chalked it with a lot of accessories and a lot of detail and everything. So I am impressed with that. Now, the thing I like the most about this figure is you've got 4 different head sculpts with this one. My favorite is this kind of smiling. He's got the big kind of grin. This is kind of my favorite head sculpt out of the 4. But then you have the frowny face, and you have the demonic face, and you have the kind of screaming face as well. And all of them I think look good. But as far as a complaint goes, it is really difficult to get the heads off on this figure. I've had, every time I've switched out the heads on this figure, I've had to take a hairdryer and loosen up the plastic. Even, you know, if I take this head off now, I would probably have to get a hairdryer to get another head or even this one back on it. So just something to be wary about, that you may need a heat source nearby if you're going to switch out the heads. It's probably not a big deal for most of you, or just going to get it and maybe display it on your shelf. But like, you know, when I'm taking photography of it and I'm switching out the heads a lot and stuff, it is kind of a pain in the butt to have to heat up the plastic. Basically, the ball joint on the head is a little bit bigger than the hole that are on these heads. So I guess NECA misjudged a little bit. And again, it's very difficult to get these heads on when after you've popped them off. So just note that. And the other thing is the paint on this hair, this red hair, has a tendency to kind of bleed. So when you start fooling with the head and you're trying to squeeze the head on and stuff, and you're touching the white portions of the face, I've had it where the red is basically kind of washed onto the white portions. So again, that's something you want to be wary of. Other than that though, I think the paint job on the head sculpts and the figure itself are really solid. Also, one of the areas where I really like the paint is on this vest. It's this kind of metallic paint, and it looks like an actual vest. I think they've done an awesome job with this. I don't know how they did it with the paint, but again, it's kind of a reflective metal, metallic type paint. Looks like an actual vest. The vest is just hard plastic, but it looks like he's wearing an actual vest. So I really like that detailing. Nice detailing on the sleeves and everything with the stripes. He's got the yellow pants that have some wash in it. Now, another area where I have a minor complaint is these buttons. It's next to impossible to get these buttons lined up completely straight. It always looks crooked to me. So I don't know. It's something that's more of an annoyance. It's not a major issue, but just wanted to note that. And these are sculpted as well. These little things that are, I don't know what they're not buttons, but they're fuzzy things or something. He's got multiple pairs of hands, including a demonic pair of hands. He's got a noisemaker. He's got a paper boat that is actually made of paper, and they've given you a little plastic bag that you can store that in. So you do want to, you know, be careful when you're handling that. I'll pull it out here so you can see it. So again, this is actually made of paper. It's from the movie and everything, but it's actually made of paper. So just be careful when you're handling it. And then the other issue I have with these balloons. So he comes with a lot of these balloons. I think it's, so we get, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We get 7 of these balloons. And the balloons look good. The string, what's supposed to be the string for the balloons, is actually just wire. And I will say that this wire is probably too long. You probably want to end up cutting these. I haven't yet, but I probably am going to end up cutting these because, you know, in order for him to hold the balloons in a group, you really have to get him to hold it far down, and then you get these wires just kind of hanging out. Even looks like on the picture on the box, looks like maybe they cut the wire because it doesn't look as long in the picture on the box box than what you actually get here. But the main issue is when you try and stick all the balloons in the hands, they won't stay. There's too many, so you really I've been able to get as many as 6 in his hand and get him to remotely keep all the balloons together. But the more balloons you put in the hand, they kind of start to spread apart, and so it is difficult to get all the balloons in his hand. So that again is a minor complaint, but I do like the fact that they include the balloons and think he looks pretty good when he's actually holding them. Now, articulation on the figure is pretty basic overall. You can turn the head and you've got some back and forth movement. Now, another thing to note is this collar piece is actually a separate piece. So again, when you're switching out the heads, this piece will come off really easy, which is also doesn't help when you're trying to switch out the heads. And I've also had some paint kind of run onto the white portion, the bottom portion, so it's not a big deal. You don't see it when he's wearing it, but definitely I've had some paint bleeding, I think from the shirt on the bottom of this collar piece. And then you've got this double hinge type elbow, so it's actually kind of 2 joints. You got a joint here and a joint here, which kind of forms a double hinge type elbow. So you get good bending there, and then you also get rotation at each of those joints, so that's nice. You only get the single hinged knee joint, but you do get rotation there, so he can bend his knee about that much. With the feet, you just get some back and forth movement and some rotation, but he doesn't have any kind of ankle pivot or anything. With the midsection, he's just got that rotation there. You can kind of pivot a little bit to the left and the right, but you really can't crunch forward or back at all. He doesn't really have any kind of ab crunch. So like I said, articulation is pretty basic, but good enough for a character like this. I wouldn't expect Pennywise to be super articulated, to be absolutely honest with you. Pennywise stands right about 7 inches with his hair. Again, he is a 7-inch scale figure, and he is shorter than the modern Pennywise figure, which I believe is actually accurate. I believe the actor who played, Tim Curry, who played the original Pennywise, is actually shorter than the new actor. So I don't know how important that is, but I think, scale-wise, these are actually pretty good next to each other. Okay, so that's it for today's edition of Toy Talk. Both figures I think are solid. I have some issues with both figures, but I think the positives outweigh the negatives on both of these. So if you're a fan of Pennywise and you're a fan of Superman, I think both of these are figures you want to consider adding to your collection. Now, the Pennywise figure is available now. You can get it at places like Big Bad Toy Store and such. The Superman figure will be out later this month. It'll be hitting comic and specialty shops later this month. So DC Collectibles did send me this figure so I could review it for you guys. But again, it'll be out in the next few weeks. So let me know what you guys think of the new format. Again, I do have full in-depth reviews and image galleries up at Toy News Eye for both figures. Please check those out if you want more information on both figures. And as always, leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like the video if you're so inclined. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And hit that bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video. I might try doing like a live video doing something like this where you guys can actually ask me questions about the figure. That's something I'm contemplating as well. But I'm just trying to kind of switch things up a little bit. I'm finding that people seem to be getting more and more bored with just standard reviews, so I'm just trying to do something a little bit different here. So let me know what you think about the new format in the comment section below, and also follow me on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I have links to all those in the video description as well, and you can leave feedback at those places as well. So until next time, guys, I will catch you later.